beautiful Greece. Hello EV Deep Divers! It's been a while since the last episode. I had to prepare a bunch of stuff before leaving and I had to take some rest after arriving. Yes, we did a 2,000 kilometers road trip with a Tesla across Europe. We had to go through multiple countries. We set off from Berlin in Germany, then we had to go through Czech Republic, Slovakia, Hungary, Serbia, Bulgaria, and finally our destination, Greece. It was a 24-hour trip including driving and charging stops, which we decided to split into 2 days by doing a one-night stay in the middle of the road, which conveniently happened to be the beautiful city of Szeged in Hungary. It was a tricky trip mainly due to 3 reasons. Doing such a long trip with an EV, you might imagine that it would be one of the reasons, but it turned out it wasn't. This part turned out to be just fine. So first, it was the COVID-19 pandemic, which made our travel arrangements a bit more difficult. We had to take a test before leaving Germany, which we had to present upon entering Greece. Also, staying in Szeged turned out to be a bit more complicated than expected. The hotels during that time were not accepting guests, so we had to resort to an Airbnb. We also considered staying in Serbia, but there we had another issue. So this was the first trip that we did with our newborn baby, plus our 2 cats. Apparently, right now Serbia is suffering from high rabies percentages in animals, and that is why the EU has kind of blacklisted them. So if we were to stay in Serbia with our cats, they wouldn't be able to enter the EU the next day. So that would be catastrophic for our trip. But the main thing that concerned us with the cats was actually the length of the trip. They would have to stay in their crates for 12 hours for 2 days in a row. Plus, getting them out of their crates and back in is no easy task. Anyway, everything turned out fine and they're super happy now that we're here. I really hope this was not a Guinness record. The car was fully loaded, mostly with baby stuff. We had to do plenty of stops, either for food or for diaper changes. Actually, the Model 3 Frank turned out to be a lifesaver for such cases. So I put the basket of the stroller in the Frank, so whenever we needed to change a diaper, I just popped up the hood, put the baby in, changed the diaper, and off we went. Another feature which my cats really appreciated was the dog mode. Yes, Tesla, we need to rename this to pet mode. Now, regarding the charging stops, this was initially my concern that it would be maybe a hassle, but it turned out to be one of the smoothest parts of the journey. It was very easy to find the next station, as this was included in Tesla's navigation system, and while we were there, it was telling us exactly how long we would need to charge to be on our way. So the stops were happening, let's say, every 3 hours roughly, and they were lasting consistently and maybe conveniently about 40 minutes. And this was the ideal amount of time to take the baby out of the car, feed it, change the diaper, maybe for us to get some water or a coffee, maybe a snack, and be on our way. Sometimes we were actually even slower than this. This happened especially during the first day of the trip. So we were basically falling behind the schedule. So the next day we decided to speed up so that we hit the 40-minute mark and be on our way as soon as possible. The vast majority of the superchargers that we came across were not V3. That basically meant that they could only charge the car at 150 kilowatts, which is more or less what the Standard Range Plus Model 3 can do. That's another reason not to buy long range. Towards the end of the first day, we had a small mishap. We were very close to our Airbnb, right outside the city, but the night had fallen, and we were in a very dark suburban road. All of a sudden, a deer decides to cross the road. I literally saw it the last moment. Also, autopilot didn't see a thing. What I did is I hit the horn, I turned the steering wheel as there was no time to brake, and I'm pretty sure we avoided it for just a few centimeters, or inches if you like. Yeah, that scared the shit out of me, and I was very happy that we avoided the worst. The next morning found us at Szeged. We got some local snacks, which we laid out during our charging stop. Plus, we also had to feed the baby. For that, we were equipped with an inverter and a blender, which we powered from the car. That was really great. Very soon we were on our way, and before we knew it, we were in Serbia. And there was the next surprise. There was a message on the screen saying that we're out of data roaming area, which basically meant that the car had no connectivity whatsoever. The map was blank and I was not able to search in the traditional way, but what I got instead was a dialogue that I was seeing for the first time, and it basically required me to enter exactly a city, a street name, a street number, a postcode, otherwise it wouldn't work. I was just entering Sofia, which is a city in Bulgaria, but that wasn't enough, so it didn't work at all. This is probably because Serbia is not part of the EU, that's why data roaming does not work out of the box. And even if it did work with some carriers, they really charge a lot for it. That's also why we didn't want to use our cell phones for this, as our carrier charges a lot for data roaming in Serbia. And what we did instead is that whenever we were supercharging, we were finding nearby Wi-Fi hotspots and we were using Google Maps on our phones. So the first supercharger was very central. It was in IKEA in Belgrade, so Wi-Fi was not a problem. The second one was a bit more remote. It was in Aleksinac. And actually the road to get there was a bit bumpy, it was not the best road, but luckily there was a very nice hotel nearby where we also had the chance to enjoy a very nice coffee and also make new friends. And after that it was Bulgaria, which was by far the worst charging stop I've ever done. In contrast to Slovakia, where the supercharger was placed right outside a very luxurious mall, in Bulgaria, at least when we did the trip, there was no supercharger. Inevitably, we had to resort to another network's DC charger, which ended up being behind a McDonald's and unfortunately right next to the trash. So the trash bins were full, they were stinking like a lot, and also during our charging session, the garbage truck arrived to empty them, so it was stinking even more. That must have been the most unfortunate placement of a charger ever. Another problem on our way, sometimes smaller and sometimes bigger, was traffic. We would have to wait for trains, we would have to stay stuck in traffic, we would have to stay in queues on the borders, but nothing prepared us for what we were to face in the Greek border. We would have to wait for 3.5 hours in very long and chaotic queues to enter our final destination. Nevertheless, after painting Juohmaru's face with half of Europe's bugs, we finally managed to arrive in Greece safe and sound. It was time now to enjoy some local food, some local drinks, and definitely a visit to the beach. Let's end the video here and keep it short for this trip. I will document the experience of going back to Germany even more, so stay tuned for that. In the meantime, keep an eye on more stories from Greece. Take care and see you in the next one.